Our next charity is a charity that grants wishes to children who are facing life-threatening illnesses. They bring happiness to children all around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Lori Giamana, who's representing Make-A-Wish.
Well, good evening. Well, I'm not going to talk about Hillary or Bill, but we may be talking about her soon. As Mike said, I'm so happy to represent Make-A-Wish, a charity that is very near and dear to my heart. We grant wishes to children with life-threatening diseases. The beauty of this is that over the years, the cure rate has improved so dramatically, and being here on the Stanford campus is really special because so many of the diseases that children are facing are cured right here through the medical center. And the statistics now are that 80% of the children we grant wishes to have a high survival rate. So it's a really, really wonderful thing. So I'd like to tell you about my story at Make-A-Wish. Now, Make-A-Wish is a worldwide foundation, and I'm going to focus in on the greater Bay Area because many of the folks here tonight are from the Bay Area, and many of the wishes that we grant involve the 49ers and our partners, the Warriors, and certainly our Giants that I think are in the 14th inning now and still tied up. So if I see any of you looking down, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm sure that our friends at ESPN would be happy to know that you are watching the game. So very early in my career, I had the opportunity to work for United Airlines out of school, and it was a great opportunity. I worked at the San Francisco airport, and I got to be part of Wishes because Make-A-Wish would grant wishes to kids. And as many people think, they all want to go to Disneyland or they want to go to Disney World. So I would get to see this element of happiness through wishes from the limo driver who would drop them off at the curb as they came through like the Queen of England had arrived through the airport. And you could see the faces of these weary travelers, of people who were stressed, just change watching a family come through the airport because we'd make a big deal about them, and they'd have balloons, and there'd be people there greeting them. And then they would get on the airplane, and the flight attendants and pilots would treat them as if they were royalty on the airplane. And it was just wonderful, and it was amazing to watch the power of what a child can do, and the power of a family that is really in distress, how it can change. So if you think about a pebble that drops in the water and the ripple effect that happens, nobody knows these people when they come into the airport, but as they come through, you see the tone and tenor change of everyone around them. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I've personally been involved as a result of that experience in Make-A-Wish for over 20 years, and I now serve as the vice chair of the executive board for Make-A-Wish. And that doesn't come without its responsibilities. It's not just about making sure that our wishes are of quality, purpose. We have issues to deal with families. We have to make sure that we have a strong endowment so that we can continue to grant a wish a day. And we have to govern the board that is solely mission focused, but obviously has to work in a bigger network in order to be successful. At the beginning, as I said, I helped facilitate wishes. And then as an executive now with another company, I'm called upon for my leadership at the board level to really help govern and make sure that we continue to be successful. But I have to tell you that my greatest happiness comes from the other role I serve at the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and that is of a wish granter. When I met with Mike said, well, tell me about being a wish granter. So I described what it was like, and he said, well, wait a minute. You're really a real-life fairy godmother. So imagine the opportunity to go and meet with a family and a child, and to sit with a child without their parents around and to ask them what they want as a wish. It can be as big as they want, it can be as small as they want. And there's numbers and numbers of wishes that we've granted that are very small and they're very large. But imagine the opportunity to not just interview a child and hear what their wishes and desires are. And many of them just want to be normal. I had a wish that I was granting, and when I interviewed the little girl, she was a 7th grader in middle school, and all she wanted to do was go back to middle school. She had leukemia. And when I said, well, we can't get you back to school yet because you have to have a bone marrow transplant, she said, well, then I wish to go to college. And we said, okay, we've got a long way to go before college, so what else do you want to do? And so she and I spent 2 hours talking, and she said, you know, my aunt gave me a piggy bank for my birthday, and so I'm saving up my money so I can take my mother to Paris. And I said, there we are. She wanted to be a fashion designer. And so we sent her off to UCSF to get her bone marrow transplant, and every month she had something special coming from her fairy godmothers and to make sure that she knew her wish was coming. And a year later, she went into 8th grade, and as she entered into 8th grade, we showed up at her house with all kinds of wonderful gifts, because that following Monday, after she started school, her mom had pulled her out of school, and the entire family was going to Paris. And today, she's a thriving high schooler who is in full remission and is cured. And that is really the power of Make-A-Wish. So when you think about that ripple effect, we recently had a wish, and it was Miles, who was a little 5-year-old, and he wished to be a superhero. And he loved Batman, and he wanted to be Bat-Kid. And we have done a number of superhero wishes before, but we didn't think, when we put the call out to get some help on this wish, that we would have the entire community of San Francisco come together. Many of you all know the story. As I can hear by the sounds, I think we've got a distraction from the Giants game. But Miles garnered the support of 20,000 people. 20,000 people showed up last November when we were granting Miles' wish. And what Miles did was, what Miles' wish was really about Miles wanting to be Bat-Kid. He was a 5-year-old. We actually waited until he was in remission. His parents live in Northern California. They're potato farmers. They had never even been on an airplane before, and here they were in the middle of San Francisco and thrust into this environment where Miles was getting the keys to the city. But like that pebble, what Miles created was he created an opening for all children to be superheroes. And that's really the power of Make-A-Wish. So we have many, many stories. They're all wonderful. We have many, many survivors. But the beauty of Make-A-Wish is that it's really just not about the child. Because for a moment, the child gets to be very normal. But for a lifetime, the family gets to remember this very special moment when in the darkest period of their lives, they all get to be a normal family, and they all get to come together. And in Miles' case, he brought 20,000 people to San Francisco. He created the Make-A-Wish website. Twitter had never seen as many social media tweets during the time of his wish. And the President of the United States was tweeting to Miles about saving Gotham City and saving San Francisco. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and it's so appropriate that we're part of the Happiness Foundation. And I had the pleasure of spending some time with Mike, and Mike shared with me his own personal journey with his niece, who was a wish child. And like every child, she just wanted something special, and today she's a thriving child that will go on to do great things with her life. So Mike, thank you for inducting us into the foundation, and we look to support you for years to come.